And welcome back to the show. Urban Upbound provides low-income New Yorkers the tools and resources needed to achieve economic mobility and self-sufficiency. Their integrated programs work in collaboration to effectively help individuals achieve economic prosperity. Joining me now to share a little bit more is the CEO and founder of Urban Upbound, Bishop Mitchell Taylor. And Bishop Taylor, good to have you. And when we talk about the work that you're doing, you really want to be able to deal with the issue of poverty. And I know part of what you talk about and what you deal with is really dealing with the issue of reducing poverty when it comes to those who are living in public housing.
Yeah, thank you, Daren, so much. When you think about poverty breaking initiatives and things that are being done to break cycles of poverty, you have to think about this integrated, comprehensive approach. For us at Urban Upbound, business development, career services, training and placement, youth development, academic and vocation, one-on-one financial counseling for poor people that was innovated by us here in New York City, and then free tax preparation, and then we own our own bank. But the issue is not having these individual silos. It's being able to comprehensively integrate them on campuses. And at the very least, for New Yorkers, it's really creating an ecosystem that emanates not from the outside in, but from the inside out, and not from the top down, but from the bottom up. And that means organizing all the organizations that exist in nonprofit, and get nonprofit organizations and other resident leaders and religious leaders and business leaders together and begin to work on poverty breaking initiatives comprehensively. It's important that we do it together.
Yeah. And when we talk about one of the greatest challenges that are facing low-income people and people, of course, across New York City is the need for affordable housing and housing services. I know your organization is on the front lines of dealing with helping people with housing services. Unpack for us a little bit the work that you're doing there with housing services.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, because, our core services are directed at residents that live in public housing neighborhoods. As you know, the core structure of our organization is built on a model called Jobs Plus that was developed by MDRC. And it's a full saturation workforce development model that really embraces this neighbor to neighbor community collaborative that makes sure that everyone that wants to work, that can work, is given the opportunity, and everyone is talking about it together and using that in every silo and every frame of what we're doing, whether it be education, workforce development, business development, and things of that nature. So to solve that, when people talk about the housing issue, to solve the housing issue, we have to have more housing stock. But one of the things that we empower folks that live in public housing to do is to consider home ownership, because one of the fastest ways to the middle class, or what some may call the lower middle class, is through home ownership, and helping people from the conception of the American dream to the realization of the American dream, and taking them through that process step by step with a financial counselor. And, a lot of people don't realize there are a lot of resources for first-time home buyers. And so to solve on the homeless and the home ownership and just the population of people looking for a stable place to live is a core part of our programming. And because, look, if you don't have a stable place to live, how do our children have a stable place to learn? Right. So all of these things contribute to those negatives that perpetuate poverty. So creating stability really is the beginning of chipping away at those cycles of poverty.
And you're looking at doing that by the work being entrenched in NYCHA and some other low-income communities. Myself grew up in NYCHA. I'm a NYCHA baby who came out of NYCHA, but I know that when you're living there, sometimes those access to resources and services, at least in my day growing up, weren't so readily available. But it seems as though that you've got a good job in terms of bridging that gap, in terms of helping people with job readiness and even counseling to get them to that place.
Yeah, it's Daren, you're so right. You're so right. Because when we started building Urban Upbound 20 years ago, public housing wasn't, and I hate to use this term, but in vogue. No one was talking about public housing. No one cared about us. I grew up in Queensbridge, and so I guess I'm a NYCHA baby too. And I didn't realize that my dad's church, which was right across the street from Queensbridge, was right across the street from the largest public housing development in the country. I didn't know that we were, in the mecca of public housing right here in Long Island City. And I think that, my dad used to say, Long Island City is, 7 minutes from the world. So when you think about Queensbridge, anywhere I go around the world, when they say, where are you from? I said, I'm from Queensbridge. They may not know Long Island City. They may not know Forest Hill, but they know Queensbridge because they know Nas, they know Meta World Peace. But my point is, 20 years ago, we didn't have the services that we have now. We didn't have workforce entrenched and embodied as a place-based initiative in public housing. We didn't double down on professional financial counseling for people in public housing 20 years ago. So this model that we began to build out 20 years ago, we wanted to do it because we didn't see it being done in other neighborhoods. And we wanted to create a model so that this kind of capacity and composition of services would be in public housing neighborhoods across the city. I'm proud to say that almost 20 years later, that we have 46 jobs plus sites operating in the NYCHA developments in the 5 boroughs of New York City. Now, that's a drop in the bucket, some might say, in comparison to the 343 conventional developments that we have, and a lot of those are clustered, but it's a lot more than we had when I started.
Yeah. And when we talk about starting, getting a fresh start is important for many people. When you're in sometimes NYCHA houses, low income housing, that's the goal sometimes. People would like to see a fresh start, an opportunity for a better career, an opportunity for home advancement, to own a home, to even live in a better apartment, if you will. And for many times you look at people, they feel as though that dream is unattainable. But the services that you provide seems as though to be a great bridge to being able to do that. So from your perspective, give me a little bit about the impact that you feel that you've been able to make in the lives of these people who've taken advantage of the services.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we started doing tax preparation 18 years ago, we did 81 returns, got $250,000 back, half of which was EITC qualified. Today, 18 years later, we're $300 million in cumulative returns that we've gotten back to residents that live in public housing neighborhoods and surrounding neighborhoods around the city. The impact is, I want to celebrate the impact, but I don't really want to celebrate the impact because we can't make the impact that we really could make if we don't have the full cooperation of the city and the state as it relates to, don't say you're giving me money as a nonprofit practitioner to provide for my constituents and then make me wait 15 to 16 months to get that money. So in order to actually execute on what the city or the state promises us, we have to give the city or state a free, interest-free loan that we have to pay interest on to get, even if we get a line of credit to do it. So you're giving us money, but then you're shackling our hands because the system is not, designed for a smooth, operational value to constituents on the ground. So I think that along with housing stock, let's not erase the fact that we're living in New York, the state that was so great they had to name it twice. But we're also living in the highest, it costs more to live in New York than any other place in the country. And I think that that says a lot about how poor people or people that have less than others are able to survive in New York City. So we need housing stock. We need people to seriously think about how do we create more housing stock? How do we empower nonprofits like Urban Upbound to have the opportunity to participate in urban development and housing development, and people that know what people want and know how to theoretically do it? You know, why aren't we empowered to do it?
Yeah. Well, Bishop Taylor, we'll have to leave it there. He's the CEO and founder of Urban Upbound. We're glad to have him with us here on the show. Bishop Taylor, glad to have you.
Thank you so much, man. Anytime.
All right. Well, we want to let you know, if you want more information, don't hesitate to visit the website at urbanupbound.org and follow them on social media at Urban Upbound. And why we are taking a quick break, we do have more show. Don't go anywhere, because Open continues coming up right after this.